All right, my friends, here you want to learn about making some bomb-ass tea, so let's dive into it. What's going on, guys? For those of you who are new here, my name is Kevin Jabal. Now, if you follow me on Instagram or TikTok, I'm actually a tea talker because my top videos are just about tea. You know that I'm obsessed with tea. It's a newer obsession of mine. And you may be thinking,
why do you care about tea? Like, coffee's the way to go.
I beg to differ. Now, the reason you don't like tea is you're used to this garbage. This is a tea bag, and inside the tea bag, we have this tea dust. And this tea dust is super low quality. Not only is the tea itself really low quality, small particles, but the chemicals from this tea bag are gonna leach into your tea. There have been studies that show there's like 1,000 plastics that end up in your tea. So it's not good for you, it doesn't taste good, stop that nonsense. What you want are good quality loose leaf teas. So there are 5 things you need if you wanna make some good quality tea. Number 1 is obviously the tea leaves, so loose leaf all the way. Number 2 is an apparatus to actually brew your tea. And this is what I started with, a very simple teapot, and I would recommend this for beginners. Number 3 are cups. Now we have different materials. You got ceramic and porcelain in different sizes. It gets complicated, it depends on the tea type, what's optimal for that. What I would say is start with this. It's glass, it's double walled, you're not gonna burn your fingers, and it's a nice medium size. Next up, you need a kettle, and the kettle, get a digital one. They're like 50 bucks on Amazon. And you can set the exact temperature you want, which is important for the tea types, which we'll get to shortly. You'll need a scale because you can't just go by eye.
It ain't about room, all right? It's about weight. No mas. No mas. No mas. No mas. No mas.
All these teas here, other than this tea dust, these are all 3 grams. But when you look at them, this oolong seems like it's a lot less than the others, and that's because of the different densities, right? If it's rolled, it's gonna be denser. So having a scale is gonna give you more consistent, higher quality tea. And these are literally $9 on Amazon.
Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
Finally, of course, is the water. Now, if you don't have good quality tea and you don't have good quality water, your tea is just gonna suck, plain and simple. Tap water in Vegas is really hard, doesn't taste good, so I filter my water, but if you filter it, you wanna be careful it's not too flat, so I add some minerals back. Essentially, water that tastes closer to spring water is gonna be best for tea. So next up, you wanna choose your type of tea. There are 5 main tea types, and it's a spectrum in terms of how processed the tea leaves are. So on one end of the spectrum, the least processed is white, then you have green, then you have black, then oolong, and finally pu'er. Pu'er is fermented as well as oxidized, whereas these other 4 are primarily just oxidized to varying degrees. White being the least oxidized and oolong being the most. For newbies, stay away from pu'er because it's very like earthy and it's very much an acquired taste. So don't start there, you probably won't like it. But starting with either white, green, black, or oolong, probably a safe bet. White is gonna be a little bit more airy, floral, lighter tea. Green is kind of the traditional stuff that you've had at an Asian restaurant. Black is probably what a lot of people are most familiar with. And then oolong is my personal favorite, and it tends to be a little bit more complex and nuanced in its flavor. Now, when you're ready to begin brewing, there are 2 main types. You have the Gongfu style of brewing, and you have the Western style. Now, most tea enthusiasts are gonna say Gongfu style is better. You get better tasting tea, higher quality experience overall. What's unique about this is you use a higher ratio of tea to water. So more tea, less water, shorter steeps, like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and you do it many times, 5, 6, 7, 8, sometimes even 10 times. Western style, you use less tea and a lot of water. So think of like British proper tea, that's what these guys are going for. And you usually steep for minutes at a time, like 2, 3+ minutes, and you're only gonna steep it maybe twice, definitely not 10 times. That'd be very bitter tea. All right, so let's actually brew some tea. In terms of temperature, the boiling point of water is 212 degrees Fahrenheit. So for blacks and oolongs, you want pretty hot water, something like 205 to 210 degrees Fahrenheit. For something like green, it's gonna be in the middle, maybe 185, 195. And then for the whites, they're the most delicate, usually 165, 175, something on the lower end. So I'm gonna start off by making this water 210 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm gonna do Gongfu in this. The actual vessel isn't as important. Again, the materials and the teas, that's a more advanced topic we can cover in a different video. When I'm drinking by myself, I just do this. When I'm drinking with friends, I go for the larger vessel. All right, so first thing you do, set your water because it's gonna take some time to get it up to temperature. Number 2 is weigh out your tea. So I have 3 grams here in each of the Winter Alishan 2020. This is a Taiwanese rolled oolong. And now we patiently wait.
1 week later.
And next you need to preheat your vessel. So this cup, if I just put the tea here and put the water in, that water is gonna cool down immediately because this whole glass is cool. So I'm now getting to temperature. That's my cue. Now I'm just gonna preheat this. preheat that. And now we're ready to rock and roll. So what I normally do is I actually use a timer, but for here, we're just gonna go by feel. Now the amount of water I'm putting in, for Gong Fu style, it's usually around 3 to 4 grams per 100 milliliters, whereas for Western style, it's about 0.8 grams per 100 milliliters. This cup about halfway is roughly 100 milliliters, and this is gonna be roughly 400 milliliters, and we put the same amount of tea. So this one, Gong Fu style, even though I just poured it, is gonna be almost done in just a few seconds. All right, and we're not gonna rinse the tea. Normally for a rolled oolong, you would rinse it first, but again, these are more advanced things that we'll cover in a different video. So now this Gong Fu style is ready to go. The Western style still needs a few more minutes. And the really fun thing about doing Gong Fu style is that you're going on a journey with the tea. You have all these multiple small steeps, and the tea is starting off, at least for a rolled oolong, is like this, and it slowly unfurls and expands, and the different flavors come through at different times based on, again, the journey with the tea. With Western style, you're using less tea, more water, so you have to wait a longer period of time. It's all getting smushed into just one brew. And you don't have that same level of nuance and flavor. So most tea heads, most tea enthusiasts, they prefer the Gong Fu style. All right, so it has been time. Now what I do is I use a plate so that it stops steeping. And then from here we can pour. Now for the moment of truth, we got our Gong Fu style. Oh, that's that good stuff. And now we got the Western style. Yeah, I might have even overdone the Western style. I don't do the Western style very often, so this one tastes more bitter to me, so that means I oversteeped it. I had it in there for too long. So that was a super quick crash course introduction on how to make some good quality tea. Again, we can dive into the nuances of material types and tea types. And the funny thing about Gong Fu style, there's an ancient saying, so as we talked about, normally you rinse the tea first, which we didn't do this time for demonstration. You give the rinse to your enemy, you give the first steep to your wife, and you keep the second steep for yourself, which is super chauvinistic and super sexist, right? But the idea being that the second steep is actually the best. The rinse doesn't really, I mean, usually people don't drink the rinse, sometimes they do. And then the first steep is like, okay. The second one is usually the one that's really on point. All right, guys, that is it when it comes to getting started with tea. There's a lot more we can go into, but I hope this was helpful for those who want to explore the hobby. If you found this video helpful, you may like this one or that one. Much love, and I'll see you guys in that next one. Now let's drink some good ass tea. Cut.